Hi everyone, I'm Richard Watson and welcome to Sabre Education Experience, our online education platform. So today we're going to be looking at the portfolio of Lumishine. Shine On with Lumishine is today's class. And this is the first part of a 6-part series that will be focusing on Lumishine. Today we're going to look at the portfolio, so an overview of everything. Over the following 5 sessions, we will be going in depth into all of the ranges, how to use them, when to use them. We'll be looking at great coverage and some formulas, etc. So today's an overview. It's going to be a short session and we will get started without any further ado. So Lumishine is a premium color range by Joico, the joy of healthy hair. Joico has a multitude of brands of color. Lumishine is the premium range. It includes permanents and Demi Permanents. The thing that I love about Lumishine, as the name would suggest, is the shine. So the shine level of using the Lumishine colors, whether it be permanents or the Demi Permanents, is just amazing, and it needs to be seen to be believed. So if you haven't used Lumishine and you're watching this, I highly recommend talking to your Sabre representative and get some color in the salon and try it out, because you will not be disappointed. So let's have a look at the technology, because the thing with Lumishine, like I said, is about the shine, but it also re-strengthens the hair. And to do that, Joico's created some new technology. So we'll start off this presentation by looking at some of the technology, and then we'll go into the different ranges within the Lumishine portfolio. So rgplex. rgplex is the technology within Lumishine that gives us all the benefits. rgplex is a play on words from arginine and complex. So it's a complex derived using arginine. We'll talk about what arginine is in a second. As you can see through this slide, it reduces ammonia. So that's one of the key benefits of Lumishine. In the permanent ranges, it has a very, very low ammonia level. In the demis, there is no ammonia at all, but you can get all the benefits of a permanent color range that you're used to with a much lower ammonia level. So what is inside rgplex? There are 3 portions to rgplex. Arginine is one, hence the name. The other part is the quadramine complex. And also we have their patented conditioning complex. Now, I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly about what the quadramine complex and the patented conditioning complex is. But if we look initially at the concept of a mild alkalizer, there's 3 parts to the arginine and what it does. An alkalizer is what we need in permanent color to soften the hair shaft to get total penetration, therefore giving us the ability to give us grey coverage, covering white hair. We can lift hair as well, because we need to go all the way in to permanently change that hair structure, and we need to be able to get in deep. Now, in the past, we've used high levels of ammonia for that, whereas with our Joico color ranges, Lumishine uses a very low level of ammonia because we have the arginine acting in the same way. It also is a dye stabilizer. What that means is that it will keep the color looking as it did when they left the salon for a lot longer than past color ranges. The other part to arginine is that it is an amino acid that repairs the hair. So a little bit about the idea of arginine is that we've found through research that arginine is one of the most important, if not the most important, amino acid that's found in keratin protein, human hair keratin protein. And we're using that within the rgplex technology. Okay, we'll look into quadramine and painted and conditioning complexes a little bit further down the line. Okay, so here is a pretty picture of what the rgplex technology does to the hair shaft. So as we said earlier, arginine helps to open the cuticle. That reduces ammonia. The arginine transports the color. So that's the dye stabilizers. It helps to get the dyes into the hair and get them in deep so that it lasts a long time. Arginine also replenishes the amino acids within the hair shaft. So what arginine does is it acts like a magnet. It acts like a carrier to lock on to the other amino acids within the hair shaft to keep them stronger for longer. Therefore, you don't get as much damage, breakage, and dry hair. So that's the arginine complex. And then we've got quadramine. The quadramine complex is really the DNA of Joico. You'll notice all Joico brands, whether it be styling products, the technology is based around the quadramine complex. And what the quadramine complex does in a nutshell, it reconstructs the hair using the human hair keratin protein, because human hair keratin protein obviously is the best way to rebuild the hair shaft. So quadramine complex goes in and really reconstructs damaged hair. Then we've got the conditioning complex. Now, everything that I've said prior to the conditioning complex really works on the inside of the hair. It gives us the long-lasting color, the strength, the reconstructive abilities. But the conditioning complex helps to seal the cuticle, helps to seal the color in. But probably most important for your clientele is that it gives amazing shine. It really gives that luxurious feel of hair that's been freshly colored, looking the best that it's ever been in terms of the way it feels and the way it looks. So those are the three parts of the main technology behind Lumishine color range. And that goes through all of the colors within Lumishine. So what do we have within the Lumishine range? Lumishine has a permanent color range. We call that the Lumishine Repair Plus Permanent Color Cream. We also have 2 Demi Permanents. So the benefit of Lumishine is having 2 Demi Permanents that can do quite different things, but both have the benefit of not having ammonia, being very gentle on the hair. The first that we see here is the Lumishine Dimensional Deposit. It's a color cream in a tube, and it is also ammonia free, giving a high level of shine. We'll go into detail about all of these in a minute. Then we have the Lumishine Repair Plus Liquid Demi Permanent Color. They come in a bottle and they give incredible shine, absolutely beautiful. All right, so before we go into the specific ranges, we want to have a little bit of a look at the numbering system and the color wheel. We'll look at the timings in the next slide because they're quite important, and we'll spend a little bit more time on those. But the numbering system is very, very handy within Lumishine because it contains both numbers and letters. So depending on your background within hairdressing, you may find that you work better if you're talking about a 0.0 as a natural, or you might like to call N as a natural. So on all of our tubes and bottles, it contains both of those. So whatever suits you, you go for it. And you can see that if you speak English, then the lettering system really makes a lot of sense. N is for natural, A is for ash. R is for red, etc., etc. All right, so I'd like to talk a little bit about the color wheel, because Lumishine is what we call a pre-blended color. I get asked a lot about what does pre-blended mean. Pre-blended means that the colors have already been combined with the primary colors, being yellow, red, and blue, in the tube. So there's less need for mixing. However, we do have the option to mix all of our colors together within their ranges. So you can be as creative as you want, but we feel as though using this concept gives you the ability to be more creative, because you're spending less time on worrying about mixing, because they've already done that for you. And if you look, for example, in the natural, they sit in the middle of the color wheel. In the center of the color wheel is the neutral zone. So that is a combination of the red, blue, and yellow primary colors mixed together to create a totally neutral base. So the naturals will give great coverage, and they'll also give a very natural looking tone. However, if you need to neutralize, then the naturals will only work on the level of color that you're working with. So therefore you would move into one of the other color ranges that's already pre-blended to help you neutralize. For example, if you look in the green section of the color wheel, we've got the NNAs and the NAs. So they're a natural ash. They've been mixed with natural and ash. So they sit in between the neutral zone and the green. So you're never going to find that they overtone the hair too much, because they aren't what we would consider that true tone sitting on the outer edge of the color wheel. So we've got neutral in the middle, pre-blended, neutralized colors in the secondary ring, and then we've got the true tones on the outer ring. And those true tones are, for example, your red, you've got your RRs, they're a true red. Whereas a color, for example, the NC, it is what we would call a neutralized orange, because it's mixing copper, which is orange, with natural, which is neutral. So you get a beautiful, natural looking copper, which is very much like a real person's hair, someone that's naturally got that warmth in their hair. They look like an NC. They're beautiful colors. So just to recap the color wheel, neutrals are natural in the middle. Then you've got your pre-blended colors sitting in the secondary area. They're already mixed with the naturals. And on the outside, you've got your true tones, and they give you intense fashion shades, as well as very strong ability to neutralize. If you look at your BAs and your SBs, they're in the blue and the blue violet area there. Okay, well, let's move on and have a little look at the timing, because timing is very important with color ranges. But one thing I think you'll find with Lumishine, it's a really simple color range to use. So having a look at our timings. In the top row here, you can see some images on the top left where you've got a small bottle, being the liquid Demi. You've also got a tube, being the DD colors, and you've got a 5 volume. So that's the 5 volume. It gets mixed with your Demi Permanent colors, and they get processed between 5 to 35 minutes. So there's a big area for creativity within that 5 to 35 minutes. For example, if you are refreshing the ends through the mid-lengths to ends, and there's a tiny little bit of fading, you may only need to process that for 10, 15 minutes. If there was a large amount of fading and you really need to put in a lot of pigment into that hair, leave it up for up to 35 minutes. Same thing goes with toning. If you need to neutralize a lot more, you may extend your timing out to 35 minutes. I find on average with my toning, it tends to be around about 15 to 20 minutes for a toner. and they can be processed at room temperature or with heat. So that's your Demi Permanents using 5 volt. Then we move down to our permanent range, and we obviously have the option of using 10 volt, 20, 30, and 40 volt. And if you see there, it's so simple because depending on how many levels of lift you want, you will get 1 level of lift with 10 volt, 2 levels of lift with 20, 3 levels of lift with 30, 4 levels of lift with 40 volt. And the timing for all of those is the same, 35 minutes. Lumishine permanent colors, 35 minutes, keep it simple. However, there are 2 exceptions to that rule. One is resistant grey coverage. If you feel like you really need that extra amount of time to pump in the pigment to get total saturation of the hair shaft, time your grey coverage colours for 45 minutes. The other exception to the rule is if you are using the XL series, they're high lifts. High lifts can stay on for up to 60 minutes, so up to an hour if you're using 40 volt with that high lift. So very simple. Permanent colours, time for 35 minutes unless you're covering greys, which is 45. If you're doing a high lift, go for an hour. Simple stuff. Easy to use. One thing as well that is super easy is every single colour that we're going to go through over the next couple of slides is a 1-to-1 mixing ratio. Everything. Permanents, demi-permanents, even the high lifts are 1-to-1. So once again, keeping it simple to allow you to be as creative as possible. Okay, let's move on to our permanent colour range. So this is a online swatch book that you can see at joico.com.au. Just go through to the technical charts. This gives you a good idea of the range, but to be honest, if you're going to get a much better idea about having the swatch books. So if you don't have a Lumishine swatch book, contact your Sabre representative because they're going to give you a really much better idea where you can look and feel the hair rather than this. But this is good for us now to look at the different ranges that we have throughout the permanent. So as you can see, we've got our M's, 0.0s, NAs, NWBs, a natural warm beige, NWs, NGs, NRGs, natural red gold, NC, NRV, NVs, and we've got our CCs, RRCs, RR, RRVs, VVs, BAs, and then the range at the end here is the XLs. There's a combination of natural beige, ash, and there's also a double ash, the XLAA. So once again, they are high lifts, but because they're mixed 1-to-1, they're quite a unique high lift because you can actually use them as a toner if you drop down to a lower level volume and you're mixing it 1-to-1, and you would obviously not time it for an hour, but they are very intense for toning as well. So there's a big variety that you can use here with your low levels for color balancing and toning with any of the permanents, or you can go up to your higher levels of volume when you need to get more lift or to get grey coverage. So you'll find that this range covers everything that you could ever want in a permanent color range. The next session that we're going to do on the 23rd of February is going to be focusing on the permanent range there. So I won't go into too much detail now, just a bit of an overview. Now, we have more permanent colors. This is a range called Youth Lock. The Youth Lock is really made for softening hair that needs to be softened. So quite often that is older hair. That hair might be white. It might be grey hair that is becoming a bit more stubborn, a little bit harder to cover. The Youth Lock will give you 100% coverage on those resistant grey hairs. So it's an extra benefit to your permanent colour range having this. But one of the real benefits I find with Youth Lock is the fact that it is collagen infused So you get all of those youthful properties of collagen being put into this color. And after the application, you'll find that hair that was gray and dull and quite dry, maybe straw-like, it absolutely feels so much softer, so much shinier, and covered completely. So this is a fantastic range for the hair that really needs that extra pump full of collagen and to cover the grays. So let's have a look at some of the range within the Youth Lock. The Youth Lock has 3 ranges. We've got our double naturals, so they're the NNs, 0.00s, and they're neutral, as we saw on the color wheel. So they'll give a beautiful, natural looking grey coverage without any noticeable tone. The NNAs, they're perfect for neutralizing. If you're lifting some natural hair and you're wanting to get coverage on the white hair in between, the NNAs are fantastic because they'll neutralize that lifted natural virgin hair that's still got pigment in it. NNGs, these are on the other spectrum, they're the warmer side. So because they are a double natural pigment, they aren't overly gold, they just give a really beautiful natural looking warmth and also cover that resistant grey hair. Okay, so that was our permanent range. We're now going to have a little look into our Demi Permanents. As I said, there was 2 of them. We're going to look first of all at our Lumishine DDs. They are the Lumishine Dimensional Deposit Demi Permanent Color Cream. We tend to abbreviate and call them Lumishine DDs. These are an incredible range of colors. They are a non-ammonia based demi-permanent, non-ammonia based demi-permanent color. It's quite amazing what the performance of this range is without having any ammonia in them. The things that these can do are really quite surprising to me. They sit a lot closer to what a permanent color can do, but they will not lift. That's a real benefit. That fact that they will not lift is absolutely brilliant for working with modern coloring techniques such as root shadows and toning, where if you were to use a stronger color with the ability to lift, therefore having ammonia in it, you would find that you get sometimes that root glow. This doesn't happen with the DDs. They deposit color and they deposit it very, very well in a long-term manner. They are absolutely perfect for toning stubborn warmth, blending grey hair. The amount of blending that you get from these is very, very good. And I would highly recommend, if you've got some clients that aren't too fussy whether they have a bit of translucent coverage, these are perfect. There's no need to go into a permanent with ammonia because you can get that beautiful blending and still leave the hair healthy by using a demi-permanent. Absolutely beautiful. They work really, really well for low lighting as well. You find that you get a lot of longevity through the length of a blonde if you're adding some of those depth low lights throughout. So I think this range in particular is perfect for some of our modern coloring techniques where we're looking for light and dark, shadows at the roots and dimensions throughout the hair. Beautiful color range. Let's have a look what's in that range. So we have our naturals, natural ashes, natural warm beige, natural warm, natural golds, NRGs, and the SBs. You can see there's a range of colors here, whether you're toning stubborn warmth with your SB range, or if you're trying to add some warmth in there, colors such as the NWBs and the NWs give the most beautiful nude warmth without looking overly sun exposed. Okay, so let's have a look at our other demi-permanent range, which is called the Lumishine Demi-Permanent Liquid Color. The liquid demis are the shiniest colors that I've ever seen in my whole life. They come in a 60 ml bottle and they get mixed 1-to-1, as did the DD colors, as do the permanents. Everything is mixed 1-to-1. Really simple. This is a range that is just incredible for toning. Once again, they're brilliant for root shadows if you don't need as much longevity or strength of tone as the DDs would provide. These also, being a non-ammonia based color, will not give any lift at all. They'll just purely deposit and add tone. These are my favorite toners that I've ever used in over 20 years of hairdressing. I really hope that if you're watching this and you haven't used these, please get your hands on some liquid Demis and use them as a toner. They really, they've changed my blondes. They're the best I've ever done. So once again, you can use them as low lights, toning, color balancing through mid-lengths to ends. You can use them as all over gloss colors. There's so many variations on what you can do with the liquid Demis, and in especially the fact that you've got massive amounts of shine, you've got no damage, the hair is healthier after using them, and you've got a really longevity of tone within them. Fantastic color range. Being a liquid as well, they're very easy to apply. I tend to use a bottle and apply them at the basin if I'm doing a toner. Very fast application, but you can also use a bowl and brush as you would have done with the other ranges we've spoken about today. Let's have a look at the range. Okay, so the liquid Demis are a large range. They're a very popular range of colors. Once again, we have our naturals, natural ash, natural warm beige, natural warmth, the NGs, the NCs, the NVs. So they're all the pre-blended colors that give you subtle tones. The 9NV is an incredible toner to use. I don't like saying I've got favorites, but I've got to say that's my favorite toner at the moment anyway. Then we move into our true tonal colors. We've got our copper reds, red violets, the double violets, and also the silver blues. Silver blues are great for getting that almost overtoned blonde where you're looking for almost a silver, close to white type of tone. Beautiful. It's hard to see here in this presentation, but there's a clear in the top right of the matrix there. There is a clear, which is probably my most used color out of everything that Joico makes because it's so versatile. You can use it as just a clear gloss. It's going to add shine and increase the manageability of the hair. It is perfect for if you've got photo shoots or anything that's really important, but you cannot change the color. Perfect for color balancing on the ends where you don't really need to change the tone, but you want to add gloss and give it a fresh look. And also the way that gets used a lot is using it as a pastelizer, mixing with other colors. So you can mix it in any ratio that you want with any of the colors within this Demi Permanent liquid range. So it then expands this color range to be infinite really, so you can work on your darker levels, adding in clear to change those tones around. Fantastic range. Once again, 1-to-1 mixing ratio. Cool. All right. Well, that concludes our portfolio, a brief overview of the Lumishine color range. We're really proud in Australia and New Zealand to be a part of this range. And I thank you all for joining and watching, listening. Before I do go though, I want to just let you know that on Tuesday, the 23rd of February at 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in Australia, that's 3 p.m. in New Zealand, we have our next installment of our 6-part series of Shine On with Lumishine. It is focusing on the permanent color. So we've had an overview today. We're going to really get into depth on how to use, when to use, and some tips and tricks. So thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.